This is the place where sports opinions collide. Dead End Sports 365. What's going on? I'm your man, Manny Brown. Before we get into it, go hit that like button and go subscribe to Dead End Sports. Y'all know what we're trying to do. New videos each and every day, all of 2022, 365 days. Let's get it. So first and foremost, man, happy Father's Day to all the wonderful dads out there, man. Enjoy your day. Get pampered. Get some breakfast. Get some lunch. Get some dinner. Get a little something at the end of the day. Whatever. Enjoy your day, man. For real, y'all deserve it, man. And this is to all the fathers out there. Moms playing fathers, whatever your case may be. Happy Father's Day to everyone out there. Just wanted to make a quick video, man. Nothing serious, nothing too crazy going on today. Nothing in sports that's really dominating the airwaves, so to speak, outside of maybe the U.S. Open. But I just wanted to make a quick video on my pick for the three best father-son combinations in sports history. I was having this discussion with a homie of mine, actually a coworker of mine, and we were just talking about Bronny and how good is he or whatever, and if LeBron's going to hold out to play with Bronny wherever he goes or whatever. And that just kind of brought up the conversation about father-son duos throughout sports history, right? And there's been so many. I mean, obviously, it's you can make a list a mile long as far as father-son combinations in sports. Sometimes three generations. You know, in the case of the Boone family in baseball, you got Bob Boone, and you got three generations worth of baseball players in that family. So it's crazy to think that in some instances you got three generations of father, son, grandson combinations. But father-son duos, obviously number one, I would go with Archie Manning, Peyton Manning, and Eli Manning. I think it's hard to argue with that family as far as their greatness, man. To have three quarterbacks that could potentially make that, in the case of Archie already in the Hall of Fame, Peyton already in the Hall of Fame, and Eli's probably going to get into the Hall of Fame, even though, let's be real, I've always been hard on Eli Manning. I don't think he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I've always felt he was a little overrated. But I can't argue with the success. 2 Super Bowl rings, playing in New York for all those years, in the Giants. It's hard to argue that he wasn't at least a good, solid quarterback. Maybe not a great quarterback, but a solid quarterback indeed. And then you have, I think at my number 2, I'm going to go with Bobby Bonds and Barry Bonds. Obviously, we all know about Barry, one of the greatest baseball players to ever walk the face of the earth. Steroids or no steroids. It's just sad that the narrative around Barry now has changed completely to he's a steroid, he's a juicer, he's probably never going to get into the Hall of Fame, all that nonsense, because there's no one on this planet that can name me 5, 6, 10 better baseball players than Barry Bonds. He's probably the best player of his generation. Him and Griffey and Pujols probably are the 3 best players of the last 25, 30 years. And it's a shame that he doesn't get his day in Cooperstown, but we all know how great Barry Bonds is. There's no one that's going to argue that Barry Bonds isn't one of the 10 greatest baseball players that have ever played the game. So Barry Bonds, obviously we know about Barry, but his dad is overshadowed, obviously by Barry, but he was overshadowed in his time too, man. I never saw Bobby Bonds. Obviously, he played in the 60s, or I think he came up in like the late 50s and played in the 60s and into the early mid 70s or whatever. And my uncles saw a lot of Bobby Bonds, and they said he was legit. The dude was a beast. I think he was one of the first to ever. I think he's one of only 2 or 3 people to have 300 home runs, 300 steals for their career. So that's nothing to sniff on. That's nothing to sniff at. And he was a hell of a player in his time. A little bit overshadowed, not only by his son, coincidentally, but he's also overshadowed by the players, his contemporaries, the players of his era. He was overshadowed by Mays. He was overshadowed by Aaron. He was overshadowed by Frank Robinson and Joe Morgan and a lot of the other more acclaimed, well-established players of his era. But if you talk to anybody that watched baseball throughout that time or his contemporaries that played, they just sing his praises, man. They say the guy was a hell of a baseball player. You can make a case that he could be a Hall of Fame baseball player had he kept on a consistent track. I think he fell off late in his career. He also had some personal demons that he dealt with, throughout his career that may have affected his play, especially in the later half of his career. But if you look at the numbers, you look at the resume, it's hard to argue that's a father-son combination worth praising, man. Bobby Bonds, Barry Bonds, I would say that's my number 2. And then my number 3 is going to be a little bit of a controversial one. It's a little bit of a homer pick, obviously, because, it's another baseball pick. But, you could go a lot of different directions. You could go Calvin Hill and Grant Hill. Obviously, Calvin Hill played in the NFL. Grant Hill, obviously, was a great NBA player before the injuries, unfortunately. You can go with Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Jr. if you're a NASCAR fan. You can go with Dell and Steph, obviously in the news. You could go with so many, man. I mean, there's so many. Howie Long, Chris Long. I'm thinking of just so many of them in my head. So Ken Norton Sr., Ken Norton Jr. Who are some other ones? You can go with so many. But my number 3, I'm gonna go with Felipe Alou and Moises Alou. Now, if you don't know, Felipe Alou is like a god in the Dominican Republic. He was one of the first people to be a trailblazer, and the Alou family is a legendary family in baseball and in the Dominican Republic. And Felipe Alou was one of the first superstars from the Dominican Republic, was a trailblazer in that country. Obviously, if you watch baseball, know anything about baseball, you know the Dominicans are one of the best pure athletes to play sports or play baseball. And Felipe Alou had a lot to do with that, man. He's a trailblazer. He was a hell of a player in his time. I think he was a 303 career hitter. I believe he's a 290 or 300 career hitter. He was a very good player in his time in the 50s. And then after he retired, 50s and 60s, and after he retired, he became a hell of a manager. He was a hell of a manager, bro. He's not in the Hall of Fame, but anybody that watches baseball, that knows baseball, that watched Felipe Alou manage will tell you Felipe Alou was a hell of a manager, one of the best managers of his era. Didn't win a World Series, unfortunately. Probably could have won one in '94 with the Expos. That's how good that team was, but unfortunately the strike killed that. So Felipe Alou probably never got a chance to get his ring and get into the Hall of Fame. But Felipe Alou is a beast, and then his son, Moises Alou, is a beast. One of the best players of his era, an underrated player, a guy that has a 300 career batting average, 300 career home runs. Was a hell of a baseball player. A hell of a player, man. One of the most clutch, one of those guys that you just hate seeing up with guys on base and your team trailing or your team having a 1-run lead, because you just know he's going to get a big-time hit. Moises Alou was a hell of a baseball player, man. Deserves his flowers as well. Underrated historically. So that's my 3 sports father-son duos, man. If y'all got any more, drop them in the comments. Let me know what your top 3 are. As again, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, man. Enjoy y'all day, and keep supporting Dead End Sports. Keep supporting my podcast, Any Given Sunday. Go support everything that we got going on at Dead End Media. And I'm out of here. Peace.